We're live. We're live on the Jeff Nosine podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Daniel Jacob Horine. What is up, brother?
How's it going?
Everything is amazing. I'm excited to have you on because Daniel picks a few topics in his career that have a vast interest to me. I mean, he's an artist. He does comic book, quote unquote, covers, but with baseball and sport athletes. And I just found him on Instagram and I kind of fell in love with his artwork. And then I started following him and seeing everything he's doing. And I was like, this is one guy I got to get on my podcast. And then he's all about dad life with his son, Daniel Jr., a big part of what he does. And everybody that knows me, that's something, a big part of my journey as well. So let's start off. Like, where did your love for art start off? Let's start off with that. I think that's the most important part of this all.
Sure. I don't remember a time when there was not art involved in my life, like kind of pre-memory, just always drawing. There's a drawing on a door of my childhood home that I grew up in that I just drew in crayon. I don't even remember making it, but I just drew in crayon on the bottom of the door. My parents left it there my whole life. So just before I had a memory, I was drawing. It's just always been.
Is there anybody else in your family that has an artistic touch? This come by?
Not a chance. I come from a family of firefighters, construction workers, policemen, and here's me. I was adopted too, so that's a part of the reason.
So with your journey, so did you go to art school? Like, give me your journey as growing up. Like, how did art turn into a career? When did that flip over? That's something you started off with, or is that something you started later on in life?
Well, growing up, I was always the creative one, the artist in the class. You know, everyone would say, "Draw me a picture, draw me as a Simpson, draw me as a this or that." As a kid, always drawing, always known for being the creative one. And then in high school, I went to the AP Advanced Placement programs. I did it two years in a row. I got a perfect score on my last one, and I thought, okay, sky's the limit. Turns out that I didn't take to the skies. I just went to community college, and had some just random jobs here and there, and eventually around 2005 or 6, I went to college for art to learn the computer side of it. I trained my whole life with fine arts, pencil and paper and paint and pens, but I did not know how to make a computer do what I wanted it to do. So around 2005-ish, I went to school for digital arts, basically, and was really worried that it was going to hamper my creative life. I thought, I'm going to get so involved in pixels and picas, I'm going to forget how to use a pen and blah, blah, blah. But it was really a misplaced worry because the computer just became another tool, and things like composition or color theory and things like that, perspective, that doesn't go away. The computer just becomes a tool that you can apply to what you already know or whatever instincts you already have. And so I got into that, and got a lot of art adjacent jobs, doing art related things. I was an art teacher at some point. I was a graphic designer. I was a motion graphics designer doing other people's art. I eventually worked at LinkedIn, and as a motion graphics designer, ended up being I think associate creative director over there. And again, still art adjacent, especially being a manager, you're not doing art at all, really. Yeah. It's just managing other creatives. And so not the most fulfilling thing in the world, but surprise, surprise, and a complete shock later in my 40s, I'm doing art, my own art for myself, the art I want to do. And it's my first art career that's got my art in it. And that's incredibly rare, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity.
So before we even get into that, let's talk about baseball, because that's obviously a big part of you. When did your love for baseball start off, and what was your team growing up? And you said we talked prior to going on air, Dale Murphy, which is incredible baseball legend. Like let's talk about your journey of baseball. Did you play baseball? Did you just were you just a fan? What team? Like how did that and so that how did the two worlds collide kind of thing?
Um, my father introduced me to the game. He would take me to games when I was a kid, and it was Dodger games he took me to. We grew up just in the suburbs of LA County, not too far away from Dodger Stadium. So we went there pretty often when I was a kid, and that's really kind of learn to love the game. And then one day, anyway, as a kid, I would go not knowing any of the rules or how to play. I would just kind of go, I think, just for the atmosphere and the cotton candy. But then one day I figured, like, I still remember it as clear as day. I just figured out baseball. Like in 1 second, it all like, oh, this is what they're doing. This is what the bases do. Okay, and I understood how to play baseball. And then when I figured that out, it all clicked for me. And I remember going to my mom, I want to play Little League. I want to collect baseball cards. It just unlocked for me. And it eventually did play Little League, was awful at it. Uh, on the Dodgers affiliate, the West Covina Dodgers, I did terrible. I played only one season and had enough self-awareness to know this is not for me. And I bowed out. I retired after 1 year in Little League. But it didn't stop my love for the game. So I even more so after that, I started collecting and trying to get autographs and just consuming the game in any way that I possibly could from there.
So is there a passion for comic books in this whole journey as well? Or because it's such a unique thing to think of, the covers. It takes the art to another level and it brings a different degree of fan or a different side of fans as well. Where did that mindset for your covers as comic book covers, where did that come from?
I don't think it as much as baseball, but comics were probably number two is in terms of my passion as a kid. And I loved I loved collecting those as a kid. Going those stores that were the comic book / baseball card stores were the best. There were plenty of them around here, and especially when 1989. That's when my comic and baseball fandom was at. Got Batman, this kind of first real, genuine, legitimate. Well, I don't want to say first real of my time. First real superhero movie, kind of Superman movies happened, and they happened, but kind of before the lights turned on for me. But 1989 Batman was such a special movie to come out at a special time in a little kid's life.
Yeah. It's in '89. I mean, sports cards. That was. I mean, I collected. I sold. I mean, I remember that was the King Griffey Jr. Upper Deck year, and it was such a crazy time for sports cards. I'm sure in the U.S. it was the same, but here in Toronto, Canada, I mean, you would literally turn any corner, any street, and there was a sports car store opened up somewhere, or a sports car show every weekend popping up somewhere. It was so crazy popular for that 4 to 5, 6 year period, right? It was like everybody was collecting. It was insane.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and part of my memories. You mentioned the baseball card shows. That was just like the highlight. You would go to Beckett and see and look for
Exactly.
the city. Pre-internet, you couldn't just look it up. You have to look at the back of the magazine and think, okay, they're going to be at the mall. This date and yeah, it was so fun. It was such a magic time.
Yeah, that was a huge part of my upbringing too. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 27 years, and I would say. In my first company, I really started. I started my first company at 17, but I started really working on my own at 19. And I would say that was my first introduction to hustle and being an entrepreneur. Was I would go to these sports car shows and open up packs and try to wheel and deal and try to sell and try to trade. And it was so much fun. Still a huge part. And you go behind there, I got tons of graded cars everywhere. Like I said, he's still a big part of what I do. I still love collecting and seeing those things. So when did this all come together? When did this idea of Popfly come together?
Well, I had done a couple comic book drawings of baseball players in the past. Nothing serialized, nothing like that. It was just like, oh, I'll do this style. and actually it was sort of the gateway to becoming a Dale Murphy friend. Was this? I had drawn this picture of Dale Murphy in a comic book style and put it on my Instagram, and I had gone to what they call the Dale Murphy MVP experience, where you can go and spend a day with Murph at his restaurant, watch a game with him. I'd done that for a couple of years and got to know him and his family a little bit through that. And I said, oh, and I shared that piece with his wife Nancy. No, oh, check this out. Here's something I did. Said, that's really cool. We should do something with that. God bless Nancy. And smash cut to a few months later, we do a limited edition poster of Dale Murphy, of that same drawing, Dale Murphy, in comic book style. We did 1 through 100. I signed it, Dale signed it, and they sold it on their site. So that was a neat one-off, and I did some other things for them, other products for their site. But I think what really married them together in a meaningful way was right as COVID started, my dad had passed away, and that leads to a lot of reflection, especially when you're locked inside the house and you don't go anywhere. So I think a lot of people just went literal and spiritual and mental inward focused, or truly indoors. And so I was going back and reflecting a lot on just my childhood growing up with my dad. I had this piece that I had kind of started and forgotten about, but in this time, reflecting on losing my father and what was important to me as a kid, what's important to me now, what's important to me as a father myself, I found this almost finished piece of Will Clark. Oh, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to take this to the end. I had started it months before, but kind of the chaos of my father passing, I just stopped it and forgot about it. But I reopened that file and finished it. And at the same time, Topps had their project 2020 come out, and I saw that. I thought, this is great, and I loved the timed aspect of it. And I had done, speaking of being an entrepreneur, as an artist, you want your work out there, but as an artist, it's not easy to get your work out there. So I had other pieces for decades I put out there. Nothing happened. Have an art show, nothing sells. I put a piece online, crickets.
Yeah.
So I had this piece that I had finished, and then I had Topps 2020 fresh on my kind of radar. I was like, I'm going to put a clock on this and see what happens. And so I did. It was very much on a whim. It's like, oh, I'll put this up for a week and see what happens. And that was release number 1, and now we're at release number 130 of doing that same exact model that I did from the beginning on a whim. And I don't know if that answers your question adequately. That's sort of the journey to today.
There's a few things I want to jump in there. You're obviously very close to your dad.
Mm-hmm.
I was very close to my dad. I was the 45. Well, then I was 44-year-old. My dad passed. That I would talk to my dad 3 times a day. I would call him on the way to the office. I would call him on the way home, and I would call him before he went to bed. I have a chat every night. He was a big part of my kids' lives. We would see him on a regular basis. I was lucky enough that we lived only about half an hour away, and he died of a sudden heart attack, unexpected. Just May 7th was 2 years that he passed away. So roughly, give or take, the same time as your dad, like in that period. And it's never easy. It's still not easy, never easy. And you learn to start living with it, but it's still there. That was a big stressful time in my life too. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it's never easy, never easy. So you're due number 1, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about when we kind of started playing around prior. How does it work with yourself and these athletes and collaborations and all that stuff? Like, how does it all come together to makes sense that as an artist, you obviously don't want coming after you or suing you or using their likeness or images. How does that all work as an artist, as an entrepreneur to create this business? And obviously, you've created something where you release weekly. Am I correct with this?
Right.
So you're busy drawing on a steady basis.
Yeah, and I do football every other week too, in addition to baseball. Yeah.
Okay, so how does that all work with collaboration? Do you have to get a hold of these people? Is that even something you even think of, work with? Like, how does that all work as an artist and as an entrepreneur to create this company that's you're obviously you're giving items, you're selling items that are going to be on people's walls or offices for ever, right? I mean, these are just lifetime pieces. How does that all work on your part?
I do try to work with the athlete as much as possible. In the beginning, I was just one of many
Yeah,
baseball out there. You know, there a possibility of a collaboration is not even on the table. You
yeah,
know, that's not available to you. But I think the fourth release I did was with Dale Murphy,
yeah.
and I wish it was number three, but it would have been some nice synchronicity there. But opening the door, Dale working with me that one opened the door for a next collaboration. So, excuse me. There's also another athlete, Omar Vizquel, and then
Incredible shortstop.
yeah, absolutely. And so when that happens, it makes it easier for the next one, So I start to get this roster, a roster and a reputation, really, to the point that as this starts to get going, I have athletes reaching out to me just to be a part of this project. And even if they don't reach out, after I make contact with them, they say, well, what took you so long to get to me? I've been wondering, how do I get on one of these pieces? And so working with the athlete has become a big part of what we do. And it's been meaningful. It's been meaningful because for two reasons I'd like to think. One is that it's got the artist's creative fingerprints on it. I do hope and want and desire it to be a collaboration. I do want them to give me feedback. I do want to tell the story they want to tell.
Yeah.
And that is an invitation to every athlete. And so when you have one of these pieces, it's a piece that has the player's creative fingerprints on it, not just here I made this, put it on your wall. Yeah. And the second thing that I'd like to think that makes it personal and different is that in addition to collaborating with the athlete on the print, we often will do a like video interview with the athlete. Excuse me for one moment. And we do a live interview with them,
which probably helps. Which probably helps their sales drastically.
It does help with sales. We're speaking to a relevant audience, but at the same time too, it's live, so the fans can show up and ask their questions to the athlete in real time. And so to kind of take out some of the pieces, the barriers to the athlete, and bring the fans closer to them. They're close with the artwork, having them involved, having their favorite hero involved in it, and this chat, removing some of those barriers as well.
Yeah, I love it. So when you are doing these on a weekly basis, now you've set up precedents of doing weekly. Like I said, there's a lot of work involved, obviously, putting this together, collaborations, whether you do one or not, the final print, all that stuff. You sign each one, I'm assuming. How many prints do you make of each?
It depends on the print run. Some weeks it depends on how many purchases that they have. So that dictates the print run.
Oh, so you do all pre-sale.
Correct. And so yeah, the print run swings wildly.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. Now, would you any of the ones when you close them off, do you ever bring them back, or they're totally done?
Totally done.
Yeah, so you make it very limited. I love that. I love that. I mean, you're creating the want, right? It's marketing 101, which is a beautiful side of being an entrepreneur. When did you start getting those entrepreneurial juices? And as an artist, you know what's crazy is I remember we did a podcast, one of my first podcasts, because I've coached tons of entrepreneurs, and one of my first podcasts we were just talking about entrepreneurs, and people think entrepreneur is a successful 6 7 figure. It's not like that. I mean, you get a local artist at a market, you get a drug dealer at a corner, and they're one way or another an entrepreneur, right? When did you get getting those entrepreneurial juices where it's like this could work and this could be something I could do?
That's a good question. I didn't grow up with that at all, with that inclination. But my wife, now girlfriend at the time, now wife, she was getting her degree in a business field. And so when we got together, we've always kind of tried to marry my artistic skills and her
Business.
business together. And it's a lot of different things, a lot. We've done small. I'm sorry. You might have to edit all my coughing. I'm sorry. I wasn't coughing all day until this. Um, we've done small, like boutiques selling jewelry, costume jewelry. Some of my watercolor paintings. I've done art shows, T-shirts, and we've done so many things. And as I described it, lots of passion, but no traction.
Yeah.
Nothing ever took. And right before COVID started, right before Popfly, we had gone to a convention. It was our first ever convention, taking some of my art. It wasn't comics and baseball related, but it was kind of baseball adjacent. Went to a convention with my art, and we came home with almost everything that we went there with. And it was the last in a big string of disappointments. Like, nothing's working. So we've been always kind of together, trying to be entrepreneurial and marry our skills together, but nothing really took. And it was at this point of kind of this max disappointment and kind of doing something on a whim that of all things, that's the thing that took. And so it ramped up pretty quickly from there. I started the project in June. By November, I was on MLB TV Hot Stove talking about the project. And so it looked like it was a, quote unquote overnight success, but truly it was a 20-year overnight success with my wife and I trying to.
All entrepreneurs. There's no overnight success as an entrepreneur at all, Daniel. And it's so crazy as an entrepreneur, like I've built, I've sold, I've tried, like I've been at this for so many years. My main company I've been running for 17 years. We design, manufacture boxing martial art equipment. That's my main company. And we've been doing that for 17 years, and we sell distributed to like about 1,800 gyms, mama papa gym. So everything you do, it's wins and losses. And at the end of the day, you're hoping you have more wins stacked over the losses, because you're always gonna fail at certain things. So it's nice that you didn't give up and you came and this. I just see like when I'm looking at your art, I'm seeing what you're doing. You're just starting. Like these are just baby steps. There's so much opportunity for what you're doing. Collaboration with sports card companies. There's so like I could see a company like Topps doing a whole series on your covers for like a legend series. Like there's so much opportunity for different things and collaborations and change them into other stuff. And then eventually, like you said, like I don't even know if you're even thinking of that, even finding a deal or finding an athlete that you could do almost like a whole comic book series on them and stuff. And there's so much things. As an entrepreneur, when I see your stuff, I'm like, there's so many different ways you could go with this. So you're just like baby steps starting off, because I can see this thing exploding. So I'm happy that you're doing it, because you're obviously going to bring a lot of joy and smiles to a lot of people's faces. But it's great to see as a not even young. How old are you?
44.
So I'm 46. I just turned 46. We grew up roughly the same time. Where are you based out of?
I'm in Southern California. Grew up in Southern California, still there.
Okay, very, very, very cool. So when you're picking these athletes, there has to be a significant moment that they achieved, or is it certain people like what triggers you? Because you obviously did Encarnacion, Jay, the parrot. Like, what makes you decide that this is a great one to do, or what? Is it through your network? Let me introduce this person, or is it more like, hey, this is a great story or a great Hall of Famer I'd like to do something on?
Um, for me, it's a lot of just what is interesting. I consume a lot of I just consume a lot of baseball uh, research.
What's your team now? Are you still Dodgers?
The Dodgers are my spiritual team. I grew up on the Dodgers, but
Spiritual team. Okay.
Murphy fit right now. I'm a Braves fan because of Dale Murphy. So
Okay.
they're chosen team, and the Dodgers are my spiritual team. But I consume a lot. I research a lot. I just look and dig and dig, and I'm looking for that hook, for that interesting story. And I'm really drawn to those stories that are off the beaten path too. Um, I don't think it's not very interesting to me as an artist. I'm just going to do Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and all that. That's not fascinating to me. Baseball is a very big, large, wide sport with lots of moments and lots of characters. You have Eddie Goodell, who had one moment in baseball, one at bat, and that's a compelling story. You have Kurt Bavacqua, who had who out hit Tony Gwynn in the World Series. Like
Yeah.
these things that
No, that unless you were in that time zone, you would not even know that story, which is pretty amazing.
exactly. So in addition to those Mount Rushmore type of moments and people, I'm also drawn to those other moments that are off the beaten path. We've heard, I've done Hank Aaron, and we've also heard about Hank Aaron's story, or Babe Ruth's, or whatever. We've heard these stories. Like,
Yeah.
it seems to me to learn about and to tell those other stories that are off the beaten path and less talked about, and surfacing those up for a week.
Have you thought of a guy that I had on my podcast? We kind of become friends over the years. Jim Morris, we did the Disney movie on the high school teacher that ended up playing Gang Sign with the Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie, but that's exactly the kind of thing that's interesting to me. He's not a Hall of Famer, not a household name, but that story is so compelling.
Oh, Disney jumped on it and became an incredible movie, right? Big.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are stories that you just hear and you just like, wow, kind of moments, right?
And even like these nicknames too. For I reference this often, but I loved Al Rabowski's Mad Hungarian nickname. That's but I didn't know what to do with it. It's not a super visually descriptive name, and so I'm just was mulling on it for a while, and then in all my research, I came across this little line that I hadn't read anywhere else. It was this little quote from Al Rabowski saying that he had a ring that he said was a family heirloom from Transylvania, and it would ward off werewolves and things like that. So he was putting on a character, and this little line about this ring he called the Gypsy Rose of Death. Oh my gosh, this is great. So this idea that had been percolating for months, now I had all the pieces in there to okay, this is the story that I want to tell. So, and that piece actually had very little to no baseball in it. It was Al Rabowski, shirtless, holding a flaming baseball with werewolves and zombies around, and that's really fun to me and interesting to me. And it's those kind of hooks. That's what I mean when I say those hooks in people's stories and lives and nicknames that I find like
I can't think of his name. I know he lives in British Columbia. Played for the Expos. The nickname was the Spaceman.
Oh, Bill Lee.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely gonna do Bill Lee. One of my favorite experiences was getting a voicemail from Bill Lee. I didn't know who it was. I thought I was gonna delete it. I thought someone was leaving me a prank call. Then I finally understood. Oh, he's saying. I thought I was saying Billy. This is Billy, like Billy. Who is this? It was Bill Lee, but he left me this very non sequitur, strange voicemail, and I don't think I still have it. I wish I did, but he's definitely someone I'm going to get into. Not only does he have a great nickname, he's got a great
story.
story, great persona, great just character for this kind of storytelling.
He's he's an interesting dude. I mean, I'm sure he has tons of stories. He's one guy that I've had an opportunity. We're going to talk to about getting eventually on the podcast as well, because man, the stories I could tell will be endless, 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 endless. So, dad life. A huge part of my life is obviously dad life. My kids are a little older than you. You only have one little boy?
Boy, 7 years old.
And my kids are 15 and 17. My daughter's already 17, which is absolutely insane. The time flies. They're still a huge part of everything I do. I mean, my kids, I go to the gym with them every day. My daughter's 17, and I still drive her to school every day. Like they want to be part of dad's life. And it's something I started from a very young age. And like this weekend, we're having a boys' weekend. Me and my son are going up to the cottage, just us, and swimming and biking and just hanging around and playing baseball. So they're a huge part of my fabric. And I love that. And that was one thing that attracted me to you, is how your son, you get him involved and you ask questions. There's one video of him with the hammer. What does it mean to you? Yeah. And I love that shit. I absolutely love that. So what does dad life mean to you? Let's start with that. Totally different than this baseball world. What does dad life mean to you? And how important is that your son, Daniel Jr., is incorporated into everything you do, work and business wise?
Dad life is everything. And I don't mean that that's not just a soundbite. Like, it truly is. I tell my wife in private moments, I'm like, I was born to be a dad. Like, I didn't know that until I was a dad. I was born for this. Being adopted, I think there's something that's still novel to me, is to see someone here that's part of my flesh and blood. That's not something that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And to see someone who looks like me, who has inclinations sometimes that are similar to me, that's so cool. And I just stare at him. I'm like, wow, like, as an adopted kid, you grow up, you don't have your father's eyes or your mother's nose or whatever. These are things that you don't have. And to finally it just arrive one day, well, this is incredible. And I just look at him and just in awe, like, you're part of me. That's incredible. And I think that really helped inform me as a father. And my parents, they both have passed, but they were fantastic people. They were, they took in over almost 70 foster kids throughout a couple of decades. And that was just that wasn't just the only legacy they had. They were givers and servers their whole entire lives, and quietly so. And so seeing the way they poured into not just their own lives, but the lives of others, really informed how I wanted to not only be a parent, but live a life, and it helped inform how I want my legacy to be. And it's our responsibility. It's my responsibility. My wife and I are on the same page in this way. It's kind of our generational responsibility. It's like, here's what our parents did to set us up to this point. Now it's on us to have our kids do better than we did, to learn more, to be more confident, to all those things that we didn't have. Let's fill in those gaps and then some, and having him, Daniel Jr., be a part of this journey is so important to me. And I hope his teacher isn't listening, but we pulled him out of school so he can go to some of these events. We took him out of school so he can go to see Jim Palmer and Jose Canseco when we were doing our signings with them, and we went to the Hall of Fame, and Tony Oliva braided his long hair. Hopefully have enough of these moments that are not particularly meaningful to him right now. May they be like little sentimental ticking time bombs in their minds, that when they get older, like,
they will all be meaningful. They will all be meaningful, Daniel.
Yeah, exactly. That these can be these moments that are meaningful to him. That it's been so intentional for me to create these moments for him, and have him be a part of all of this, and so he can have that time to look back. And I want him to want me to drive him to school when he's 16, and to do all these things and go camping with me when he's a boy, and just investing in in him as a whole complete person, you know?
I love that. I love that. I love that you get a few things that a lot of dads don't understand is one is you could give every gift in the world to a child and them as a child looking at that gift, they don't really care about that gift. They're looking at that gift as daddy recognizes something I did or daddy is awarding me for something. That's what they appreciate. That's what they will remember. Those gifts will play with for 5-10 minutes or a day or two and they'll forget about it. So I've always been from day one building memories, doing road trips. Me and my son, my family, we do every single year. We do a ballpark. We do a road trip to a ballpark. And last year we did Chicago. This year, like we do a ballpark every year and we make that into a road trip. It's you build these memories that one day when you're gone, they're always going to be here. Like my dad worked 30 years Ford Motors on assembly line, 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night, 2 weeks a month. I wouldn't see my dad. But what he would do is he would gather all his holidays, book them in for 1 month in the summer. We'd pick up in the car, we'd load the car to the max and drive from Toronto, Canada to Cape Cod. He would rent a little cottage on the beach and we'd spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the beach. And those memories, nothing else matters. Those are the things you remember, those car rides, those stopping at those carpet. Like those are the things you remember as an adult. And those are the things I'm trying to build with my family now that one day when I'm not around, they could have those memories. And that's one thing you're doing. And everything too is I think I realize this more now that my kids are teens. And I think this is something you're realizing already, which is pretty amazing, is as parents, we just want, as a dad, I should say, my goal, and I say obviously this is your goal, is your kids to do more, see more, have more, experience more, and achieve more than we have. And that is almost like our legacy is to see them and being able to be here long enough to witness that happen. So I love that you're doing that and understanding that already because it's so precious, so precious.
Yeah, 100%. It's what colors everything we do. Like each of our, I don't have one near me, but each of our we have a little business card in all of our boxes that looks like a baseball ticket.
Yeah.
And I redesign that often, but each one has the same little thing. The acronym for, I think it's WD for DJJR. Like we do it all for Daniel Jr. I don't think I got the acronym right, but like letters, it's just a reminder for ourselves. It's like this is a legacy building, experience building, and person building. We involve him in so much of the behind the scenes too. Yeah. Not only for these experience with these ball players, but an entrepreneurial aspect as well. Here, we want him to see us struggle. We want him to see us win. Yeah. We want us to see the kind of internal mechanisms that we kind of have to dial in to make work, and all for him to absorb this and hopefully apply it and do better than we did. We certainly did. We're learning all of this the hard way, the long way, the painful way.
Yeah.
And so like you said, have him do better. So stand on our shoulders, and when you're older and just do better.
I have a few questions more before we end it off today. Your top 3 covers, or the top 3 artists that you worked with. I'm assuming you're gonna probably say Dale Murphy is one, but the top 3 are covers that you're so excited to finish off. And not the ones that did the best, just in general, the ones you appreciate the most.
Well, I'll say Big League Chew because my son's on the cover of that one.
Okay. I didn't see that one. So what number was that? I gotta go back and see that.
Gosh, that was in July of last year. So that was probably the 80s or so.
Okay.
That was a collaboration with Big League Chew as well, and cool. And it was just a super nostalgic piece of my boy sitting on a bed with baseball cards and binders strewn about, looking at baseball cards with packs of Big League Chew around.
I love that. I gotta find that one. I love that.
I'll speak to kind of sort of the outcomes of the entrepreneurial part of this too. We released that, in collaboration with Big League Chew, and then some collectors said, "Well, where's the Daniel Jr. autograph option?" Like, oh, that's something that okay. So we made it an option, an autograph for Daniel Jr. and whatever, he sells, he goes to his college fund. And so we said to him, Daniel, how much do you want to charge for your autograph? Not knowing what he was going to say. And he was 6 years old at the time, 6.5. And he thought about it, and he's like, well, if it's $1, it's too little. If it's $10, not enough people will get it. So I'll make it $5. $5 seems good. So he was truly on his own, like evaluating.
Being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and he himself landed on $5, signing 100 of those things.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Super cool. So that's my number one for the sentimental reasons. I think another one that comes to mind too is it wasn't a collaboration. It wasn't even an athlete that I worked with. It was the batter's eye, and
Okay.
the stadium element.
Yeah.
And that one was just artistically is one of my favorites. It's one of the lowest sellers ever.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of huge fans of a stadium feature.
Yeah.
But it was taking this obscure element that we see and hear about, hear in passing, and then interpret it in a comic bookish way. That was a lot of fun for me. I knew as soon as I hit like publish, this one was not going to sell like hotcakes, but it was so fun to do, and it was a kind of creative exercise for me.
Yeah.
And number 3, I say this, I don't know. I say this one often, and I keep thinking I should pick another one to go to, but I'm going to go back to the Al Hrabowski Mad Hungarian.
Yeah.
Because for me it was the first time actually I used an iPad. Prior to that, it was doing it on a laptop with my finger on the trackpad. So doing like basically finger drawing, finger painting, all of these.
That's what you're doing.
Yes, so it was very long and very slow, and that one it was a sort of several elements really made it special to me. It was no longer finger painting, finger drawing.
Yeah.
It was more. It got back to what I'm used to with actually like sketching, so it was more familiar, and it was not the first, but one of the first ones that was a baseball cover that wasn't necessarily baseball-y.
Yeah.
It was there was no logos, there was no anything. It was just a artistic interpretation of this man and his nickname. And I love the challenge of being able to challenge what baseball art is. Does it have to be a bat and ball and a uniform for it to be baseball art? Like, no. I love that kind of challenge to tell a story that is not just a baseball player, holding a bat or throwing a ball. I love the challenge when I can dig in and go the hard way, take the hard way to get to something that you probably wouldn't think of, or wouldn't be the first, second, or third idea you'd have to get to a finished piece. So the Mad Hungarian one piece stands out as really the well, not my first, but my first, I think, truly meaningful way of being able to do that.
I love it. Actually, I have 2 more last questions. Bucket list. Is there a bucket list of anybody you've been always wanted to do or trying to get a hold of, or somebody that you plan for the future? Are you allowed to reveal that already?
Sure. I don't think it's possible, but Willie Mays, of course, he's one of the Rushmore players that,
of course,
still with us, but I don't believe a collaboration is probably possible with him. And being a kid of the '80s, Bo Jackson is
okay. See my logo, Jeff Knows Inc. You know where they came from?
I can take a gander.
Bo knows, and it's the exact same font, and I have
that right there.
I even have his Royals rookie card back there. I mean, I was a huge Bo Jackson fan, huge Bo Jackson fan. I grew up just watching him climb run the walls, and just, oh, that was just incredible. And as soon as I did the podcast, I was like, what could I do? Even though we started off as a pure entrepreneurial podcast, but we went on to, after about 30 episodes, people trying to get on, and we became just entertainment. Like,
Mhm.
we've had Super Bowl champs like Brad Johnson on. We've had Brett Boom, Shea Hilbrand is one of my buddies. Like, we've had a whole bunch of baseball people. Like we've had old WWF guys, Jake the Snake Roberts on, Dallas Page. We've had even people like from Tiger King. What's her name? Oh my God, from Tiger King. But it was just we've had a cleaners of celebrity. Yeah, we've had her on. So it's been just it's this crazy things where it's been celebrities, influencers, athletes, and it's got to the point where people just want to speak to, and it's been just crazy. Bo Jackson is a guy that I have talked to him a few times. I've talked to his manager or agent a few times, and it's been so close a few times to booking and then schedule, and I can never get him on. And it's somebody he's a bucket list. I want to get him on my show. He's definitely him, and actually Jose Canseco. Canseco, I think, is another guy that's he has so many stories, right? And I know most people have heard them a million times. He just pictures a guy that'll be a fun interview to have, right?
Totally. I can't put my finger on how to describe it, but like, they're not in the Hall of Fame, but guys like Bo Jackson and Jose Canseco, like if you're a guy of a certain age or a kid of a certain,
100%.
You cannot.
Oh God, the A's in the eight, like growing up watching the A's, and then there's that team with the Smash Bros. Like, come on, you can't get better than that, right?
Totally.
That was a huge part of just growing up, right? I mean, the A's. I mean, then you had all the Atlanta teams but they had all those great pitching staffs with Glavine and, oh God, even guys that never really their rookie cards were worth so much money, like Avery and stuff, but they never fully made it. I mean, there's so much. I mean, that was my era growing up. I played baseball, and that was a huge part of me growing up. I was like, but Bo Jackson is, oh yeah, guy that I would love to get on. I would love to see you do something with him.
I would, yeah, I would too. Since we do football and baseball, my dream scenario is that we have a release that it's a football and baseball
together,
and it's like both Bo Jackson, like that. If I can figure that out, how to do that,
would you dive into other sports like hockey or like old WWE guys or anything like that? Would you do anything like that, or no? Are you sticking to your baseball and football right now?
Sure. I think one thing that's really fascinated me about sports, I mean, doing the baseball pieces, is that what I've come to really fall in love with is the stories, because I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about storytelling, and I've learned a lot about just baseball history. And the way I often say it is baseball is this long, centuries-long soap opera.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
villains, good guys, bad guys, these redemptive story arcs, and all falls from grace. It is ripe for visual storytelling, especially with the hyperbolic visual language of comic books.
Yeah.
And so I the more and more I do this, the more I see how this is such a good fit to depict these athletes and moments, kind of how we saw them as a kid. And so what I've come to really enjoy about doing football was not my number one sport as a kid. It was sort of a peripheral thing.
Yeah.
But it's got those same stories and heroes and villains and all those things that I described. That's in every sport. That's really attractive to me, to find those kind of characters and those moments and people, and they must exist in every sport. I know nothing about hockey, but I'm looking forward to hopefully one day, when they make more than 24 hours in a day available, to dive into these other sports and find these really compelling stories that.
Oh, you could go into musician. Like, there's so many. I mean, it's endless. But I love your niche. Have you ever even thought of somebody like a character out of a movie, like The Wild Thing, Major League, or anything like that?
Yeah, I love to do a Charlie Sheen one. We did do.
I got his little Funko Pop back there, and I actually have an artist picture at home. My wife bought me of Wild Thing Charlie Sheen from the movie. Yeah, but he's like that character is iconic, right?
I like to explore things that are not only just baseball, but baseball culture. That's why I really chew. And I did a piece. It wasn't really I guess it was a Field of Dreams piece, but it was Kevin Costner and Dwyer Brown was playing catch in the cornfield, and the title of the piece was "Hey Dad, Want to Have a Catch."
I love that. Yeah.
And the way I partnered with Dwyer Brown, who lives not too far away, and he signed it, and released that, and that's one of those pieces of baseball called "Even the Batter's Eye." It's part of it's peripheral baseball element, and so movies and TV shows and Keith Hernandez. When I did a Keith Hernandez collaboration.
So you did, yeah.
Yeah, and it was him and Elaine with Seinfeld. Like that was a moment I depicted. And so I love that's some of the stuff is when baseball or sports collide with pop culture.
What issue is that? What number is that?
Oh goodness.
So they're all on your website, all of them, right? Because my staff's here is a huge Seinfeld guy, so I want to show them that when we're done here.
Yeah, that was one of our. Let me just rabbit trail a little bit. But we did a Seinfeld baseball Seinfeld Keith Hernandez piece. It was titled "I'm Keith Hernandez," based on the
yeah.
And it was him holding Elaine in a very like romance comic cover style. Nope, not a lick of baseball in it really. It was that, and just one of the cool standout moments in this process was the week that came out. Keith Hernandez, the Mets were playing the Red Sox. They were at Fenway, and Keith Hernandez were talking about this piece on the air.
Yeah,
so I was like, oh my gosh, the ball's bouncing off the green monster. Keith Hernandez is talking about my artwork. Like this is such a cool just moment. So kind of take the visual snapshots, visual, and just absorb this. This is so cool, and we have several of those little kind of organic, memorable moments that really are near and dear. And so that speaking of Keith Hernandez, speaking of TV and movies, that's certainly one of them for me.
Yeah. I saw you did Dwight Good, and you never did Strawberry, have you?
Not yet. Not for lack of desire. We're working on it.
Interesting. Yeah, he'll be incredible one as well.
I know he's a Met, and he'll be if I ever do it, he'll be a Met on the cover. But
yeah, it has to be a Met. It has to be a Met on the cover. Yeah. Once he went to the Yankees, that was a different era, right? So that's when everybody remembers him as a Met. This has been awesome. This has been absolutely, absolutely awesome. Where could our audience follow you on social media, your website? Do you have next week's? I know you just by the time this airs, your Tim Raines Montreal Expos will be done. I don't know if you want to extend it for a few days. This will be airing on Tuesday. But do you know what your next week one is already?
I do.
Are you allowed to mention it? Oh, no, anybody. It'll be eventually when you're releasing it. It'll be released Tuesday afternoon.
Well, one thing I'll say who it's intended to be. Maybe we can edit it out if it's not this. But the only reason I stop is because Popfly has taught me that anything can happen.
Okay.
I've had pieces that are like, okay, great, we're good to go. Just need that final green light, and then nothing. Then I have to do something else.
So what do you mean nothing? What do you mean by nothing? It doesn't get the traction?
No. Like I don't get the final green light. Like I either.
Oh, by the yes.
They just don't respond. They stop responding. And I think there was one. I don't want to name the athlete, but I had the artwork done. Everything was done. I just needed to final okay, go. We're good with this final artwork. It was relevant to the World Series at the time.
Yeah.
Then crickets. No. So it didn't work out. But assuming all goes well, we're gonna have Fred Lynn as a Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
Collaboration with Fred himself.
Awesome.
On the week that this is airing. Fingers crossed that actually happens.
Fingers crossed. That's what I did. This has been absolutely awesome, Daniel. So, like I said, social media, give me the links and websites and all that stuff like that. And then don't hang up when we're done. I want to still talk to you about some stuff.
For sure. Popfly Pop Shop, pretty much everywhere. At Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And we have the website popflypopshop.com. I think there's a Pinterest, Facebook, Pinterest Popfly page. There's so anywhere you could want to be somewhere. I think we're even on TikTok with the kids. We're there at Popfly Pop Shop. So but I don't do any dancing.
That's awesome. I don't either. I'm on. We just put clips of the podcast, so you'll actually be on through ours as well. The staff puts up clips, but this is awesome. This has been amazing. This has been a ton of fun, and I'm going to continue your journey, and I want to keep connection with you. And yeah, this is awesome. I appreciate everything you're doing, and you're going to bring a joy to a lot of people, and just the nostalgic aspect of it. Just growing up in the 80s and seeing some of the guys you're putting on, it just brings back so much memories, right? Which is that's what I guess caught my eye the most, is the athletes you're having on, which you're doing it as a fan, not just an artist, not just as an entrepreneur. You're doing it as a fan, so I think there's so much more passion and behind it. It makes it so much more special. But that's what I love about it as well too.
Thank you so much. Thanks for making time for me, and thanks for having me on the show. This is such fun.
Thank you, brother.